back with Shay Rowbottom. This is her second appearance on Growth Mindset University. I'm really excited to have you. Our first episode, I actually just listened to it again today for the first time since it came out. And I remember I put it in the best of category. Like, you know, there's approximately 1 out of 5 of my episodes go in like the best, best of the best category on my website, as officially deemed the best by yours truly.
Wow.
And yours went in there.
That's
amazing. And I was like,
Yeah.
but I forgot why. I'm like listening to it the first 5 minutes. I'm like, okay. And then we're like we're really getting into it. Like 45 minutes go by like that. We're talking about narcissism and which we talked about for a while. It's one of the
Oh, that's right.
about.
I'm remembering more
Yes.
of the content now. Yeah.
And we were talking about smaller creators on LinkedIn and how you're a champion for the small creator, because you started it. I remember you in the 40s.
Yep.
40,000-ish followers. And now, when I had you, you were at like 100 something. And now, a few months later, you're at 380,000. By the time this comes out, you're going to be well over 400, maybe even 500. And I quickly remembered why I put it in the best of category. I was like, that was a really good conversation that I feel really good about. And I think that people should listen to that after this. jordanparis.com/EP158 is the link to that episode. And
Good
you're
times.
here. You've got a lot has changed since then. Of course, you've tripled your following. You have the Shay Rowbottom Show. You mentioned on my podcast you were going to call your upcoming podcast Narcissism.
Yeah. We can talk about why that changed.
Right.
But yes, I was originally.
Yeah, it's going to be all about narcissism. But regardless, you have a podcast out called The Shay Rowbottom Show. People can check that out. And then, of course, Shay Rowbottom on LinkedIn. I mean, you're really easy to find. I had my friend Patrick look you up today on LinkedIn. You were the first person Shay with the sunshine
Good,
emoji. Good. And then, so, I mean, look, I just can't even believe all that's happened since. Like, I feel like you're talking to like Lewis Howes, who by the way, like, I've heard him say so many times, I don't go on other people, like, I don't really go on other people's podcasts. I don't know if you had him on your podcast or you just did a video with them.
It's scheduled to come out, yeah.
Right. But like, I was like, damn. And my Uncle Brian and I, we were talking the day.
Shout out Uncle Brian. We can't purge past that.
Yeah.
We gotta say hello to Brian.
He was a big fan of yours. We were just saying, we were saying the day before I saw a video with you and Lewis, I was like, we were talking about how Lewis is just very hard to reach. And,
right. Very busy.
And how he does, I was telling Brian how he doesn't really go on podcasts. And the day after, I see you and Lewis pop up on my LinkedIn feed, and I sent it to Brian. I'm like, holy crap.
Wow, that's so funny.
And you've been featured in Forbes like 5 times since then, since our conversation in 2019.
Forbes, Entrepreneur, CNN, The Today Show Online.
So like, what's going on? What's the secret sauce? What is the sauce here?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, thank you for having me again. I really did enjoy our interview last year, and I really do admire you and everything you built at such a young age. If for the viewers listening have listened to my podcast, you'll know that I was up to some very different things when I was your age. I was actually just starting to find business. So, but yeah, the answer really just comes down to momentum. They say, what's that saying? The rich get richer.
Sure.
A lot of people.
There's been a tipping point of sorts here.
Right. Like, there's a lot of negative connotation with that, but it really is true. Once you grow a following and you build this sort of momentum and this loyal tribe, it only escalates, it just accelerates, and there's so much more that you can do. Okay, now I have almost 400,000 followers. I want to launch a healing business. And again, those who listen to my podcast see that I'm now very involved in the healing and the spiritual community. So I have a huge platform to use to promote any new business.
Right.
It's not like I'm starting
built an audience now.
Exactly.
Yes.
So once you have the audience, oh man, it's like the world is your oyster. You can just create more and more. And I will say that like a huge factor in all of this that I don't want to breeze past, that's so important, is just actively working on myself. Addressing my own insecurities, being honest about my own darkness. And the more that I am able to self-actualize the more that I have found myself manifesting and attracting people and relationships that really do truly align with me and that are just genuinely good people. I have my associate John Palmer over there, who I met earlier this year. He found me on LinkedIn, and like, you know, just as an example, he's been such a blessing in my life. Just attracting people who genuinely want to help and also who have the same mission in mind. But you can't do that if you're carrying a bag full of trauma, you know, on your back. You're inevitably going to just attract situations and relationships to replay that darkness until you really get honest with yourself, address it, and heal. So I will say that
you get what you give. I always say that.
Yeah.
That's the energy you're putting out there. I mean,
Exactly.
that's what you're gonna
Yeah.
attract, yeah. I wanted to discuss. Were you finished before I rudely interrupted?
Yeah, no, I was actually.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You wrapped it up for me.
Yeah.
You psychic podcast interviewer, you knew it was coming.
Well,
yeah.
you've taken the journey into podcasting. I know we only discussed it briefly before
Yeah.
we jumped on here. I mean, how's your journey been going with that? Are you enjoying your journey? What have the challenges been?
Oh man, I just totally
It's
make
been
it up
fun,
as I
though?
go. Yeah, I mean, like it was a really spiritual process for me because I always knew I wanted to start a podcast. I told you I wanted it to be about narcissism, and it is in many ways. A lot of things are about narcissism, but when 2020 hit and all of these things started surfacing, you know, there's a lot of information coming forward now about this darkness that really exists in the world. For example, a lot of the pedophilia that's been coming forward.
Right.
There's a lot that
Which
people don't.
is actually kind of local to here. I mean, West Palm Beach is very close. to
Yeah,
where
the
we are
sex
now.
trafficking. I mean, like there's so many kids that go missing in the United States. People are waking up to the idea, like, well, maybe the people in power that are supposed to be stopping this are actually the ones keeping it going, and maybe there's some darkness going on here. So, you know, I kind of just had this massive download one day when I was finally sitting down to write my podcast. It was early this summer, 2020.
Did you say write your podcast?
Write it. I was gonna write the first episode because I wanted to do like an intro episode.
Okay.
Like, hey guys, I know you've all known me as a LinkedIn marketer, but I really want to make this podcast about almost like Lewis Howes, like personal development, healing, overcoming. And I sat down.
By the way, I don't think everyone can do that. People that,
Yeah.
that don't have a built-in audience, I think that can crash. That strategy can crash.
But pivoting.
No, just creating like a general like interview show. The way the way I have, the way you
Right.
started, like
Yeah.
a self-help show.
Well,
It's-
yeah, but it's like look at Joe Rogan.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
because
but he had a built-in audience. He's
Oh, I
like,
see what
you
you're
know, he
saying.
had like a
Oh,
TV
yes,
show,
true
like,
true
you know, you have
that.
400,000 followers.
Oh yeah.
You know.
So we're better than him. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I sat down to write it.
Sure.
And I realized, oh my gosh, like, I want to tell my story. Because I had a really rough childhood that I haven't been open about until I released my podcast. I decided, you know what, this podcast is going to be the launch of my story and what happened to me as a child and how I repressed the memories. And then later on, for those of you listening to the show, I ended up finding ayahuasca, which is a plant medicine, which helped me to remember what had actually gone on and why I had such a dysfunctional, depressed life where I was attracting all these narcissists and all this darkness. So the first 8 episodes of my show is literally that. I just decided to tell all, and that's been a huge aspect of my brand, is like, you guys just get brave, share, and you know, there's a quote that's like, on the other side of your fear is your freedom.
Yeah.
So I was so afraid to come forward, but with 2020 and all the pedophilia and everything, I was just like, you know what? I just need to share this because I do really think it could support people. I think it would help people understand these plants and how healing they are, and that there's a very strategic reason Big Pharma and everyone wants them illegal. And also that, you know, childhood trauma is really not rare. You know, it's really something that's perpetuated in our culture for so long. We need to get honest with ourselves about how prevalent it is if we truly do want to see the suicide rate go down, the depression and the use of antidepressants go down, the alcoholism and the addiction and the opiate crisis go down. I mean, it all comes to the way we're raised and the way that we feel as children. So that's what I did. I decided to share my story in the first 8 episodes. It is like written. And then I go on to interview guests about personal development, healing, vulnerability, etc.
You thought of making? I mean, if you have it written, have you thought of putting it into like book form?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And actually, it's funny you
It's
say
a
that.
lot of content.
Yeah, it is. Because
Like, these are like 20, 30 minute. That's a lot of writing.
It is, and my business coach actually helped me with that. He was like, well, because I've always wanted to write an autobiography. That's actually how I thought I would come forward. If I came forward, I'm like, well, I'll just do it in a book. I'll just write it all in a book. But he was like, you could do it in a podcast and then transcribe it to a book. I was like, yeah. So that is also in the works.
Good. Besides that, I mean, yeah, the Shay Rowbottom show, and I listened to an episode this morning. I recommend it. People can find it. I mean, people that listen to Growth Mindset University, they know where to find
Yay.
podcasts. They don't need to preach to the choir here. But I mean, LinkedIn, I really wanted to focus in on that today. You know, I mean, that's really the root of everything for you. And I know for me, it's been the root of everything too. LinkedIn and podcasts for me. And without those two things, I really don't make money. And if you take one of those things away, I'm barely even at half strength. I have to, they both work in tandem so well. But I mean, you started on LinkedIn, and I think a lot of people view it as just a static resume.
Yeah.
But it can be so much more than that. And I think it's like this frame of mind, like a mindset. I mean, what would you say to the people that just view it as a static resume? What would you say to those people? Seriously.
Yeah, I would say it's not. It's a lot more than that. But I get where that mindset comes from, because historically, for a very long time, that's really what LinkedIn was. I mean, there was actually a time on LinkedIn where you couldn't even post videos.
Yes.
That's actually a pretty new feature.
Only until 2017 or 18.
I believe it was 2017. Video became a function. That's shortly after. That's when I joined the platform. But for a social media platform that's been around as long as it has, it's very bizarre that it's I don't feel like it's even peaked yet. But it's been around the longest, and it was primarily used by job seekers and recruiters. They owned LinkedIn. So now what started happening, especially when video became a function, a lot of different industries started coming there just to get leads. It's just a lot more business oriented. A lot of people are entrepreneurs, all different industries. And I noticed the video function has allowed people to market and communicate and grow a brand in a way that you previously really couldn't do on LinkedIn. So I like to sometimes say it's like the Facebook of business.
Sure.
And for those, especially people who are in their 20s like us, and they're LinkedIn is lame. What are you doing on LinkedIn? That's old people.
Right.
That's boring.
It's not cool to have followers on LinkedIn.
It is cool to have money from LinkedIn, though.
Yeah, it is.
So that's what I say.
Yes,
yeah.
it is.
So, and that's the other thing I want to mention real
not
quick.
Much clout involved, though.
Yeah, not really, but that's okay. I think that it's been a humbling experience for me, because I really always wanted to be famous. That was my thing growing up. I wanted to be an artist, I wanted to be a singer. I eventually quit my dream of becoming a musician when I did find business and I found marketing, because I saw kids online making money, passive income off of blogs, and I was like, okay, there's something I'm missing here. So I learned video marketing very intensely on Facebook for years. That's where I built my first agency, working with Facebook pages. And then I took it to LinkedIn to get leads for the Facebook agency, and I realized, oh my gosh, there's absolutely no competition on LinkedIn when it comes to video.
Totally.
So I was able to kind of find fame I was searching for many years on LinkedIn, but it's actually been the most healing, beautiful thing for me, because I've been able to be open and honest and vulnerable and attract people who love and value me for me.
You share a lot, very vulnerable.
Very vulnerable.
Is there a point of oversharing?
Yeah.
I try to keep. I try personally. I mean, I feel like in terms of creating content, we're very opposite. You do a lot of video. I really don't do a lot of video.
Yeah.
There was a point where I was. You're very
vulnerable. When you hang out with me, we're gonna do video.
Yeah, I guess. I guess I got it. Yeah. And I really don't talk about personal stories. I you know what I mean? We're very. Is there a point of oversharing? Do you ever worry that you're oversharing?
Well, I go through waves. There's definitely times where I'm like, oh my gosh, should I be sharing this? But it always ends up the same. It always results in oh my God, I'm so glad I did that. I've liberated myself. And I actually would encourage you to share personal stories. You'd be surprised how much that gets leads. People feel like they know you on a more personal human level, and therefore they're able to better picture themselves doing business with you. But, my philosophy with oversharing, and I know there's people who are like, oh gosh, I could never do it to the level you do, Shay. You're just an open book. It's kind of my mission in this planet is truth.
Sure.
My mission is to dismantle this false reality built on everyone kind of being fake and keeping up with the Joneses and fitting
Definitely.
in. Yeah, so I want to encourage people to be so real, and if it takes me going to the most crazy extreme to do it, if me being the example way up here can get people to just start to go a little higher here, I feel like I've done my part.
Sure. So being, I mean, vulnerable is like this buzzword. I'm sure.
Yeah,
A lot of
it is-
people
it is
are.
a buzzword.
A lot of people are tired of hearing it. People are
Mhm.
like, you know, they're talking about vulnerability. Like that's stupid. I'm gonna turn this podcast on.
Mhm.
What does it actually look like and mean, and what can it do?
Well, I mean, I like that you brought up the fact that it's a buzzword, because I do think that's true. And I
It
do
is.
think that it's almost kind of like,
It's a cliche thing to talk about.
yeah, and it's almost created like fake vulnerability
Definitely.
too, where people are like,
Definitely.
just kind of like,
to get the engagement.
yeah, but it's not really vulnerable, it's not really real.
Right.
You know, what scares you to share? I think that's the question you need to ask yourself. That's when you're vulnerable. If you think like, you know, oh, you know, my dad died of cancer 5 years ago. Okay, does it make you like very uncomfortable to talk about that publicly? No, I could talk about it. Okay, then like, yeah, you're being vulnerable, but maybe you're not really being vulnerable, you know, like to the effect that you personally grow yourself
Yeah.
from sharing. Yeah.
I just realized, and I've thought about this before, I may have mentioned it on the podcast, that I think that vulnerability, like real vulnerability, is what you're currently going through. It's really easy to talk about the things that, you know, I went through this like 3 years ago, I was in a really
Mhm.
tough place.
Yeah.
You know, 5 years ago, or my childhood, this
Right.
happened. It's a whole nother thing to like talk about what you're currently going
That's a
through,
good
the
point.
money
I like
problems you're
that.
currently
Oh,
like
yeah.
imagine like if
Yes.
you know someone talked about that, like the struggle, like I'm really not getting a lot of leads right now, like,
Right.
and being like vulnerable that way.
And
I don't know.
that's actually a lot of what John and I experience with our clients is like they'll get on the phone and they're like, I just can't make videos, I don't know what to talk about, and that's what we'll ask. We'll just be like, okay, well, what's going on in your life right now?
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
got a ton of content. They got all these
Sure.
things to say. Oh, my kid's leaving for college, I'm worried about it, or this and
Yeah,
that. It's like, and I'm like, okay, great, that's all video content. And then they're like, oh, but no. And I'm like, but it is. Like, it's all right there. I made a post not too long ago where I said I was bloated. Like, I literally was saying, like, I'm having stomach problems, you guys. I've been bloated. And, like, I was like, this is, like, such a TMI. Like, am I really going to share that I'm, like, bloated right now? And, like, it was so funny. Like, in the comments, like, a bunch of
I think I
people,
saw
the
that.
people either found it funny
Yeah.
or there was literally comments of people being like, oh, I've been bloated too lately.
Oh
Shay.
my
I've been
God.
struggling with that. And, like, it's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, let's just be honest. We're human. And chances are, if you're, like, scared to share it, there's a high chance that there's someone going through the same thing. And then it kind of just, it's like this collective relief. Like, we can all put down the mask, and get real now. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I mean, what is it for you know? I mean, we're talking about vulnerability in terms of like posting on LinkedIn. I mean, paint the picture really, Shay, of what it could really be like for somebody who maybe they're employed, maybe they're a student, they have an internship, you know.
Right.
Patrick. And what could it like? What paint the picture of what it can do?
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good question, because if you are in the situation in which you're an employee, it can actually get you fired.
Yes.
And I've known people where that's
Sure.
happened. It's happened many times, but you know, here's the thing. If you're gonna get fired from your job for opening up and being vulnerable on LinkedIn, some of these people, it's not like they're being vulnerable, like I hate my boss. That's not what I'm talking about. They're genuinely sharing about like mental health, things that are important to them, and they get fired. You know, my question is always, well, if you were sharing your true self on LinkedIn, how much did that job really align with you anyways?
Definitely.
So.
And that's like the opposite of employee advocacy. Like you see
Right.
Andreas Janssen with Shield.
I love him, and I love Shield.
And,
Yeah,
and,
shout out to them.
yeah, and everyone at Shield is like posting great content. Like they have great employee advocacy
That's amazing,
for the
yeah.
product and the talking points around LinkedIn, and they really show up with great education on LinkedIn. Like I've actually saved some posts, not even from Andreas, but like the COO, I forget what his name is. Like I can't even imagine a company that fires someone for like posting on LinkedIn for I just you're stuck in like the 80s or something. Like what?
It's fear, you know. It's fear.
This is not how modern business. I just think that it's so great.
Well,
to
it's shifting though.
Sure.
I do think it's shifting, and now we're gonna get into narcissism, because that's literally what this whole perpetuated cycle of narcissistic parenting does. We perpetually in our culture have raised people to believe it's more important how you appear and how you look on the surface to everyone else, and how you make us who are associated with you look, than your actual thoughts and feelings and your actual needs as a vulnerable human being. So this is the shift that we're going through right now. People are standing up. People are saying no more. Like, I want to talk about this. I want to be real. And that pushback, that kind of cancel culture of, no, I'm going to fire you and I can't. Yeah, well, we can get into that too. But like, you know, that is essentially just, it's like, it's either like you're on the boat or you're off the boat. It's like Noah's Ark. Like, everyone's getting ready to get on the ark. Like, okay, we've been living in this false reality. We haven't actually been honest with ourselves. And as a result, people are really sick and tired. People are depressed and unfulfilled. So no more, you know, I'm going to open up and I'm going to get real. And it's all those people who aren't ready yet, who are still very comfortable with the false society, that are like shaming those people who are real. I mean, there's this famous quote, I say it all the time: a society that drifts further from the truth, the more a society drifts further from the truth, the more it will hate those who speak it.
Well, it seems we live in a post-truth world nowadays,
Yes.
where if a fact is inconvenient,
I love that, inconvenient.
if a fact is inconvenient, then we're just gonna make it not true, and we're gonna cancel you because of
I
it. It's
know.
like,
Isn't that wild?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a
it's
little
just,
weird.
look at, we literally have a presidential candidate running for the Democratic Party that is supposed to be all about equality, pro Black Lives Matter, and anti-racism, and he just went on camera saying one of the most racist things I have ever seen.
What was that? I didn't see.
He said, if you're having trouble deciding whether to vote for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Interesting.
That is innately racist. Like, that is so racist. But we don't attack him the way we do Trump. Like, where is the outrage? Where is that is actually like the most racist thing.
I know.
So
even more, I heard him say, poor people are just as
Oh,
good
as
as white people. Or just as smart as white. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Exactly. I mean, so it's actually, I know a lot of people are upset that he's the
Trump
candidate.
says dumb shit too.
Of course he does, but I mean, it's the hypocrisy of it. It's like, okay, if you're not going to let Trump get away with saying it, why are you going to let this guy get away with saying it just because he's part of your club, your little club of people that you feel safe all having the same beliefs? I mean, it's really wounded people. The more healed and the more evolved you become, the more you're able to discern truth. When people are very wounded, they're very reactive, and they don't live in reality. So I think that's what we're seeing is a lot of very wounded individuals who subscribe to these groups. They want to be part of some cause. You know, not that the Black Lives Matter movement hasn't done good things. It has, and I'm certainly not.
Has it?
Well, you know, I am definitely
Cited some very dangerous, murderous riots.
Yeah, I know. Well, now it is. Yeah, I mean, but like, here's the thing.
Trying
I definitely believe
trying to push a Marxist agenda.
it is. Ooh, I like where you're going with this. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. I do believe that racism is real. I do believe it can occur. And I do believe that sexism is real. I do believe it can occur. I, as a woman, have experienced it. The problem is what you focus on, you manifest. Where you give your energy, whatever that is, it will grow. So when I see these recent protests or riots, and I see pictures online of 7-year-old black kids holding up signs saying, I deserve to be treated equally, I get it at face value. That might seem like, oh, that's so great. They brought their kids up for the cause. All I see, as someone who's studied a lot of this work now and done a lot in the personal development space, I see, wow, that kid is literally being programmed from age 7 that they are not treated equally. They're being told, hold this sign, you're not being treated equally. Would that 7-year-old even know that if you didn't, you know? So, and that's what you manifest. That's what this, so.
I mean, it's, quite literally. I mean, Zuby, I don't know if you.
No.
Oh, you should. Zuby is a must follow on Twitter. He's
really?
a rapper so he's a very worldly perspective. So, because he was born.
This isn't the Pharaoh guy, is it? Or is it someone else?
No.
Okay, I don't do Twitter, so I'm
He was, well, follow him on any platform.
Okay.
He's brilliant.
Okay.
And he's a rapper. He was born in the UK, grew up in Saudi Arabia, has Nigerian roots, has spent
Oh,
considerable
wow.
time in the U.S. You know, he's been on Joe Rogan and Candace Owens show
Aw.
and stuff like that. And so smart. The things that he says about what we're talking about right now. I had him on Growth Mindset University actually as well in episode 192, I believe. JordanParis.com/Zuby for that. I know the links all. And
I can't wait for you to see my podcast skit.
Yeah.
Because you just like did a little clip from the skit, just like
Oh,
plugging the episode. That's like
yeah,
one
yeah,
of the
yeah.
lines, yeah.
But yeah, he said exactly what you were saying that there. Like they're kind of taught to believe
Yeah,
that
be
they're
a victim.
That they're a victim.
Yeah,
yes.
be a victim, and then
Yeah.
there's a small interest group of people who benefit off of these people believing that they're victims.
Yeah, and I mean, look, it's just like I have no problem with people posting Black Lives Matter and the square and the
Right.
and the hashtag and all this other stuff. Like it's just that half these people, no, not half, 95% don't know where the money's going.
Yeah,
They just put a link, a Black Lives Matter link in their bio, have no idea where it's going. I mean,
right.
it's
It's
being
going to the
funneled
Democratic Party, right?
Exactly.
To
And
a
also-
candidate who's saying very racist
Yeah,
things.
and also probably lining the pockets of Patrice McCullers, Opal Tometi,
Sure,
and Alicia Garza, the
sure,
co-founders
yeah.
of Black Lives
It's
Matter,
very
whom I reached
political.
out to for
Yeah.
this podcast. By the way,
Oh.
they opened my emails like 10 times and didn't respond.
Oh.
But
Well, we'll get you there. We'll manifest that.
yeah.
We're not going to put the belief in your head that you
Sure.
can't get them on your podcast, Jordan.
But I feel like 2020 is the theme is like victimhood.
Yeah.
It's not even what we were just talking about. It's like I posted something the other day, like a question on Instagram. If you could live anywhere in the world for a month, where would you live? And somebody said 2019. I was like, man, it was like, yeah, it's funny. I kind of laughed, but then I was like, honestly, 2020. You can still
Yeah.
have a good time in 2020.
Right.
Like live it. Like
I-
now's
I-
as good a time as any.
Yeah, I mean, I actually feel that 2020, as much as it's like destroyed the economy and a lot of people have lost their jobs, their livelihoods, had to start over, like it really has been the distinguishing factor between who is self-empowered and who is still wounded.
Right.
Who is still being a victim to their circumstances and who's rising above. Everyone I know in the spiritual community and these groups I surround myself with that is actively working on themselves has actually thrived in this pandemic.
My life has changed.
Yeah, they've done better. Yeah.
I only first started making like real money after the first month, like after the.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Yeah. And everything also went digital, which helps people like you and I.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even people who aren't in the online fields, like I've known many people, they're just like manifesting more and more business.
Definitely.
And then I've talked to people who I can tell still struggle with victim mentality, and that's all they say is, oh, this is so terrible. It's like, and people need to just start, because I went through this. And again, I break down all of this on my podcast, my story. I was riddled with victim mentality. I mean, I was really a victim to my circumstances over and over again. What I wasn't seeing until I finally became self-aware and started doing plant medicines was that I liked being a victim. I got some,
it does feel good. I've been that way.
I got some sort of payoff from not empowering myself, from being codependent.
Or getting pity from other people.
Yeah, and I mean, and also, there's many payoffs that you get from it. You don't have to take responsibility. You don't have to level up. You can just, play small and feel safe down there. But the reality is, a lot of people aren't ready to face that about themselves. They want to be right. There's this righteousness. They're like, no, I'm a victim. I'm like, look, I get it. There's injustices in the world. Sometimes people aren't going to be treated fairly. I've experienced it, but I'm not going to focus on that, because the more I focus on it, the more I manifest more of it. So starting to own your own victim mentality and get real with yourself about, like, it's okay to be wrong, and that's the other end of this is, like, we've created a society in which being wrong is bad. The whole school system is framed around, like, if you fail, you're bad. That's not true. These are just
absolutely.
lessons. So the more that we can make people feel safe to admit they were wrong. Hey, I was wrong about this whole Black Lives Matter thing. I was shaming everyone who wasn't all about it, but it turns out it's just a political pawn to fund the Democratic Party, which is all an agenda. I was wrong, guys. I was wrong. I admit it. Very few people feel safe doing that because they feel like they're just going to be shamed for having been wrong. So we need to be very mindful of when people do come forward and change their perspective and actualize that we're not like I told you so, or like it's like, you know, that's exactly why
Yeah,
people don't
definitely.
ever get honest with themselves. So that's the other part of it, is just making people feel safe. Like it's okay to be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, people on both sides of the aisle. I mean, Patrick and I have a friend that on Facebook, like every couple hours, just
He already knows who you're talking about.
Yes,
he's
of
he's
course.
over there laughing.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Who's very, very conservative and just, and I'm like, I'm like, dude, this is why conservatives get a bad rap. Like, you're the reason why. Like,
Because
like,
he's
just
being mean.
being
He's shaming
mean,
people.
shaming, very
Right,
forceful.
right.
And I mean, it's happening on both sides here.
Yes.
There needs to be some sort of. I mean, look, we all want a similar things. I mean, now there's people who want socialism and and on the radical left.
Right.
I don't really want that. I don't know about
Right,
you, but
which is good. 'Cause
yeah.
a lot of people your age think it's a good thing now.
Yeah, it's funny. It's very
right.
funny.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was gonna say was, hey, look, we all. I mean, none of us are. You and I are not racist. Like, we know that. We don't have to like prove it online and
Right.
post about it.
I
on
actually
social
don't
media.
even have one other American white employee in my entire company.
Yeah.
You know, but you don't hear me talking about, I don't need to like virtue signal and make
Right,
black
right.
square posts to
Right.
prove that I'm, it's like,
Right.
no, I just live it. Like
Yes.
I don't, yeah.
I've been saying that. Like,
Yeah.
I just, like, people say, like, oh, because if you don't post about it, you're part of the problem. I'm like, actually, like, I don't need to post about it because I, like, to use it, like,
Right,
said,
you
I
embody
just
it.
am those things in real life. I love people. I'm kind to people. I'm
Yes.
respectful. And, like, I do it in real life. I don't need to do it on social media. I don't need to prove it there. And if you need to prove it on social media, what does that say about you? It's
Right.
similar to, like, a rich person doesn't need to tell you they're rich.
Exactly. Or an enlightened person will never tell you they're enlightened.
Yeah.
You know, I've had that happen.
Right.
before. One
But-
guy in the spiritual community was like, I'm enlightened on this scale. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
you're not enlightened. Because
Yeah,
if
it's
you were
interesting.
enlightened, you wouldn't be telling me you're
I'm an
enlightened.
expert.
Yeah, it's like, but I want to touch on what you just brought up about shame, because that is so important, and this is something I'm really passionate about. Like, this is part of why I created my show. The shame. We need to stop. Like, that is at the root of all dysfunction in society. So there's this, I just mentioned enlightenment.
We just
There's-
shamed people for shaming people. Seriously.
But we didn't really shame them. We're just talking. We're just
Right.
like, it's one thing to just have a conversation, and at a certain point, you do need to point out where
Yeah.
things are ineffective. You know, it's not about being right or wrong. It's, is it effective? You know, like, it's so tough because everyone wants to say, like, this is wrong, but it really just comes down to being ineffective. Is molesting kids wrong? Or is it just ineffective because it creates kids who have no boundaries, no self-esteem, and grow up to hate themselves, so it's ineffective for society to molest kids? You know, like, you can break down anything to wrong or right or just effective or ineffective.
Yeah.
So the shaming is, okay, so there's this map of consciousness, right? So the map of consciousness was created by David Hawkins, who's amazing. And it goes from the lowest vibration and the lowest frequency that a human can be vibrating at all the way to the highest, which is enlightenment. So this is, again, what we're coming back to. Humans are starting to actually reconnect to God in a way where they realize we're so much more than just like these separate bodies. Like,
Yeah.
we're all connected. Everything's a frequency. You know, you are vibrating at a certain frequency. I am vibrating at a certain frequency on that scale, and it goes through all the different emotions. You know, the lower ones will be like fear, guilt, apathy, and then it goes higher. It gets up to like anger, pride, courage, all the way up to the high ones like love, joy, enlightenment. So guess what the lowest vibration on that map is?
Jealousy,
I don't think jealousy's on there.
shaming,
Shame.
hatred.
It's shame.
Yeah.
Shame. Shame is the lowest of all human vibrations, and we have literally constructed a society around shaming one another. It's how we raise our kids. If we don't like the way they're acting, and we, in a means to control them, we'll shame them,
Yeah.
which again creates dysfunctional adults as they grow up. We shame people who don't have the same political beliefs as us, who don't see. I mean, this mass shaming culture, we're just perpetually keeping one another down because that's the
Yeah.
lowest of all human vibrations. And if for those who've studied cultism or which is narcissism, really, it's just the cult leader is a narcissist, but really effective cult leaders, what they effective for the cult.
Yeah.
But that's maybe I just
Yeah.
broke down effective, but like effective for what they're
Sure.
they're after, and it's some
Yeah.
dark intentions, but what they'll actually do is create a group of people that shame one another into submission. So the cult leader doesn't even have to do anything. They've created this, they've manipulated everyone so much to the point where they do the manipulating for him or her or whoever the leader is. So that's really how I see our society with the government. It's like the government doesn't even need to carry out their own agenda. We're doing it for them by hating one another. Yeah.
There's a term for that.
What is that?
You love this term.
Yes, tell me.
Not already familiar. Useful idiots.
What? That's so simple. I thought you were going to throw something fancy at me.
A useful idiot is somebody who propagandizes a cause that they actually really know nothing about. And these useful idiots are cynically used by the cause's leaders.
I love that. Yeah, no, that's really what it is. And that's what you see a lot of, people just want to fit in. Humans have a biological need to fit in. Yeah. So if the majority of the people are doing X, and even if majority are doing X, you know what, in my gut, if I really listen to my own intuition, I kind of believe Y, but why? No one's going to accept me. Everyone believes X, so I'm just going to believe X and not think twice about it. So I think it's really important to have trust that even though you might feel alone in a belief, if you truly believe in your core it's right, you're probably right, so follow that, and inevitably you give permission for others, like, hey, I also want to follow along in this way, because it is just people want to fit in. So if the majority of the people believe, hey, if you didn't post a black square for Black Lives Matter, you're racist, it's like, okay, I'll post a black square. And then what does that do? Is that really proving who's not racist? It's just proving who's able to succumb to the crowd quicker than others, And it's virtue signaling.
Yes, absolutely. Virtue signaling is like my pet peeves. Social justice warriors, and you think about it, I think about it from a human behavior perspective and draw this lesson from Robert Greene's Laws of Human Nature about deciphering the shadow side. Generally speaking, you can look to the emphatic traits, and I've talked about this on Growth Mindset University at least 10 to 15 times.
Plug the episodes.
People have heard
this. Plug the episodes. Which ones are they, Jordan?
Robert Greene's like jordanpearson.com/EP178 or something.
So funny.
I think, or 177, I don't know. But under the emphatic trait, the extreme virtue signaling, these social justice words are always on the right side of things, always so moral and virtuous and righteous.
Righteous.
And holy, or whatever, if you want to use that word. Generally, under that emphatic trait, that emphatic showing is the opposite trait. A lot of hatred and pent-up aggression, and so that's
it's
what
wounds.
Makes
it really is. It's wounds. Like, the whole idea of becoming self-actualized and becoming spiritual, becoming whole and grounded within yourself, is actually embodying a life in which you don't need anything outside of yourself. All of your validation comes from within. All of your self-love is generated within. You create your own energy. You don't need to get a reaction from people to feel good, or so it's
that's hard.
Yeah, and it is, trust me.
Especially wounded people like you and I, who I wasn't cool in high school. I don't know about...
You weren't cool in high school?
No.
Who didn't like this kid?
I had
I'll beat them up.
I had one friend.
I will stop being spiritual for a day to go hurt them.
I just want to get the feedback,
Right. Well, yeah, me too. That was my whole life. I just wanted validation. But it's kind of ironic because now I have it all, and I've done so much work on myself. I really don't care. I used to actually
I'm transitioning out of it too.
Good. Yeah, you're on the path, dude. I used to literally, it would affect my day if my post did poor or good on social media. That's not the work. So when we talk about all of these social justice warriors, and, there's a fine line. Right? It's good to educate people. It's good to, bring people in involvement in the cause, get them educated. But when you are constantly in a position where you're saying, I can't have or feel because of something outside of me, because it's you, you need to change. That's just a very unhealed person. They haven't figured out that it all comes from within.
Yeah, I've had, I've posted I've been very, very vocal about things that we're talking about today on social media the past couple of months, and I've had, people really try to lecture me and tell me, that I'm not a good person, and I'm just
Have
like,
they canceled you? Have you experienced the cancel culture?
Well, yeah, I had a lot of, I had like people I've had people in comment section be like, oh, I've been following you for a really long time, and
I know this comment.
and
I know
yes,
exactly where you're going
you know,
with it.
really
Yeah.
disappointed to see this from you, Jordan. It's just a shame, and
Right. And all they're really saying is, hey, Jordan, up until now, you've never made me feel uncomfortable.
right.
That's really all they're saying. I mean, I've had people say, I don't follow you anymore because of like this one post. I'm like, look, yeah.
It's hilarious when people have to tell you that they unfollowed you.
Right. I mean, but it's again, it's that shame.
Yeah.
It's trying to, because that's what we've all been taught. You want to control a situation, shame someone. So, hey, before I unfollow Jordan, I'm just going to shame him and let him know that I unfollowed him because maybe this will make him go, oh no, I don't want to lose followers. Okay, I'm going to be shamed back into submission and back into whatever the majority of the herd believes.
Sure.
I mean, but it really is kind of laughable because like to my followers who say like, I unfollowed you. It's like, dude, I provide value to you. Like, I don't ask you for anything. You don't pay my bills, you know, unless you end up becoming a client. But, you know, you following me is a free service for you. I am making content every day, providing this without asking for anything in return. So, you know, for you to try to hold that over me, like, it's just, I mean, it's very backwards. And it's also very sad, you know. I challenge anyone listening, when you do get triggered by a post from an influencer or a thought leader you've previously always agreed with and you don't agree with it, I mean, can you still follow that person? Can you coexist?
Yeah.
Hey, I love Jordan Paris. You know what? That one episode he didn't agree with all that, but still love the guy. I'm going to keep following him. It's like, that's the mature route. You know, I don't agree with everything Donald Trump does. But I do agree with some things that he does. And even that, you know, I posted once on one of my private Facebook groups about it. There was like one, I can't even remember what it, it was in that group, Shay Shine Chat, yeah. I posted like one specific thing that Trump had done. I can't even remember what it was. It was like one order he passed or one thing, and I was happy for it. And I posted in celebration of it, like, oh, this is good, look at this, like, woohoo. And it was like, oh my God, everyone, like, I never said I voted for Trump. I never said I support Trump. I just said this one thing is good. And I take a lot of pride in that. I take a lot of pride in my ability to discern that just because, you know, I might not like one area of one person doesn't mean I can't find value in another area. So this cancel culture, it's not just about canceling people. It's about, hey, you know, if you don't align with this set of beliefs I have, even if you do say something of value, I'm going to shut off my brain from it because I believe that it's like black or white thinking. It's like it's all or nothing. It's very toxic. I mean, just very, and that's why we've now gone down this rabbit hole of like, people just can't even talk politics at all anymore because it's all or nothing.
I don't even think that like a liberal and a conservative can date. I don't like.
They can't. It's like changed completely.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
people.
I mean, they can. They have to be very conscious, but again, I think once you're so conscious and you're vibrating at that higher frequency on that map of consciousness, there's really no need for a label of like liberal or conservative, anyways. Yeah. You just start to kind of realize like, look, I like what I like. I don't like what I don't like, and this two-party system, especially in the wave of everyone in society being so wounded and not really raised to know how to self-regulate and take care of their emotions, is that, you know, we've created these two parties where it's kind of like if you lean one way but you don't agree with some of this stuff, you'll just bucket in those beliefs so that you can fit in. Like literally, you can't run for president saying, oh, you know, I support let's say I support like all the traditional conservative values, but I'm also pro-choice. But I'm also pro-choice. I do believe abortion should be legal. You can't do that. You have to lie to yourself and say, okay, I guess I don't like abortion now just to fit in. Like, is that really effective?
Bizarre.
When we ran for president in middle school, like I want to be president of my class in middle school, you just ran on your own accord. Hey, I'm John Smith. This is what I believe. This is Susie. This is what she believes. It wasn't like so. It's just really created this polarizing culture, and everyone being so wounded has just played right into it.
That's a really good example of like middle school, and like I ran for president of my residence hall when I was a a freshman in college, and I
Nice.
went against like 8 other people, and I won. And I was president of
Yes.
this building. You know, it was cool.
Was this you still trying to redeem your high school stuff?
It was.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Awesome.
I did a lot of these things for like approval and validation, and I just really wanted to flip the script. But I did it for the wrong reasons at first, and it ended up being a great thing so far. But you know, I sum up the shaming and the black and white thinking in this way before we move on to our last thing. It's that people used to think that critical thinking was a virtue, that it was valued.
Wow.
Now
I
people
love that.
are
Can we bring that back?
people are critical of thinking now.
I love this. I love this. I want to post this little micro clip on LinkedIn right here of that because that's really what it is.
Yeah.
Critical thinking, objective thinking. I mean, the more wounded you are, the less objective you are. The more I was able to move into the space of healing myself, the more I was able to see myself objectively and get honest about like, Shay, like you're being a victim. Like you're being a little bitch, Shay. Like you gotta just admit it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think that for those who aren't ready to heal, who aren't ready to self-actualize and get honest about their darkness, their hardships, their insecurities, they're gonna make those who are critically thinking and pointing out the truth. The people that are critically thinking and pointing out the truth are going to make them very uncomfortable, simply because they're not ready to face the truth yet.
Definitely. Shay, I freaking love podcasting with you.
Yeah,
Like,
dude, this is great.
This has been another good
Let's do it. Let's make it
podcast.
a biannual thing, or what is that? Is biannual twice a year? Or it's twice a year,
annual. I could do that.
Yeah.
So there's one thing left I do want to talk about before
Let's
we
do
wrap
it.
up, though.
Yeah.
And I saw you post maybe last week about pitching
Yeah.
on LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, I think you messaged me about this.
I did.
All right, let's talk. Yeah, let's do it.
And
Let's
I don't
make
wanna,
you wrong.
I don't want to put I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I sum it up. You say pitching on LinkedIn does not work. Is it more nuanced than that? Tell me what you post.
Sure.
You know what I'm referencing.
I do. So, the whole idea of how to build a following on social media comes down to how much trust you can build with an audience. How much trust can you build? How much can you get these people to like, know, and trust you?
Sure.
Because that actually positions you in a place where you can sell and pitch.
I agree.
So I always say, focus more on framing the majority of your the majority of your content around giving value without pitching your services. But pitching is not wrong. Pitching is not bad. It's just that those who over pitch are going to create an audience who starts to feel like, I don't really know if I should trust this person, because it really just seems like they're all out for themselves. There is a spectrum. Like I personally, because of the experience I had on Facebook all those years working with blog owners, I saw a lot of influencers destroy their following and dilute their page because they started pitching and selling and endorsing too much.
In posts?
Yeah, they started in posts. Yeah, they started pitching too much.
In posts, I get it.
Oh, you're talking about Messenger?
I was thinking more along the yes.
No, you can.
Maybe
You can pitch in Messenger. Yeah.
So there was a.
But
I didn't read it right or hear it right then.
Yeah, no, I'd have to go back and look at the post what I said exactly. I wasn't Jordan Paris approved, so I got to check it again. But it's really,
I didn't say I didn't approve it.
It's okay to pitch. It's just
in the DMs.
In the DMs.
Yes.
Like here's the thing. If you genuinely know that your product, your service, your solution is going to make this person's lives better, their business more flawless, their revenue increase, why wouldn't you pitch? I had someone explain to me like this once, because I was just learning sales and I was still really like passive, like I didn't want to be too aggressive about selling, and they were like, Shay, just imagine that you have the cure to cancer and you are trying to sell it to someone who has cancer. How badly would you be pitching and like, dude, you need this.
Keep it to yourself?
Right, because you know that it's the best thing for them. Sure. So I think that as long as you truly believe in your product, you're coming from a place of heart, not manipulation. You genuinely know that your solution is going to improve the life of this person. Pitch all day, but also be smart about it and know human psychology of, hey, people don't always like to be sold to. So maybe just offer them something first. Maybe, like, for example, what I'll do is I'll just go, message, hey, Frank, I saw you on LinkedIn. I saw your last 3 videos. Awesome that you're making content, dude. I just wanted to shoot by a few pointers. You know, you should actually have a headline at the bar. You should subtitle these. If you want more engagement in the comments, have a CTA at the end. Just want to give you these free pointers. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
And then they inevitably come back like, oh my gosh, Shay, thank you so much. That was great. Tell me more about you. Oh, well, you know what? I actually have a program that teaches more of this if you're interested. But look, I gave him something first.
Sure.
I didn't ask for anything. So I'm showing my value. I'm proving to him that I am here to serve.
Yeah.
And that sets you up to be able to pitch better as well.
The example about cancer is really good. It proves the point that I'm about to make here. That pitching is a generous act. If
yes.
you
Yeah, I love that.
do your homework, you make it personal, you're kind, there's like 5 criteria that I wrote about in this post the other day. But the main ones are making it super personal and doing your homework. Like that's what I'll do. Like I literally get people. And the other criteria, this is actually probably the most important one. You've done enough homework to understand maybe what potential problems they're facing, and how what you have could potentially bridge the gap between the problem and your solution. You know, how can that gap be bridged? Pitching is a generous act if you come at it from that approach.
I agree.
I literally get people, Shay, I DM people every weekday, maybe about 12 people, 10 to 12 people, and I literally get people saying, thank you.
Exactly.
Like they're so grateful that
and you're
I
targeting the
reached
right
out.
people. Yeah,
exactly.
Amazing.
Oh, also, I don't know, maybe I should keep this secret. I might cut this out of the podcast. But
is it vulnerable, Jordan?
People who like my post and who I go through who likes my post, and if they look like my avatar, the person I want to serve. Yeah. Then I'll reach out to them.
Right.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm going to be vulnerable with this right now. Well, this is the conversation will come full circle right here. That I was so ungenerous in 2019. I was not pitching at all. I was so I felt it was wrong. I was like, oh, social selling. People come to me and look, some people will come to you. A lot of people will, but if you really want to take control of your business and really blow the lid off of it, I really think that you have to have an outreach method, because inbound leads just relying on hope, and hope is not a strategy.
Right.
And so I'm very sad that you mentioned you were starting a podcast.
Yeah.
I have a podcast production done for you podcast agency.
Oh, dude, yeah.
And you mentioned it, and I didn't even think for a second, oh, let me like talk to her about it.
Wow.
And you went with somebody else.
That's so true.
And I actually told my mom like a month ago. I was like, Mom, I'm actually kind of upset that I don't get to work with Shay. Like I learned my lesson, but
you did. Wow. Well, dude, like
it's sad.
That is so cool that you can own that stuff. Like really. Like that's how we learn. We just, there's no mistakes. There's only lessons. You learned, and you're also in my house, and we're friends. It's all good. But I also real quick just want to touch on what you said about how you do really believe in outbound, and you do believe in pitching.
It's changed my life.
Absolutely. And sales is like, it's so healing. It's been so healing for me to like ask for what I need. Like it's made me like a more just empowered person in my life, being able to sell. And like I used to be so scared of men. I'd be like confronted, like, oh, I just want men to like me. Like I don't want to be a bitch, And it's just like, dude, whatever.
Sales
Give me your money. Let's do it. But you said about the outreach is really important, because you do also post organic content. So when you're posting organic content regularly and people start to know, like, and trust you, now those outbound campaigns become way more powerful.
Totally.
I mean, if I message anyone on LinkedIn by now, they're going to be like, oh my God, it's Shay, and they're going to answer. So keep that in mind as well. I mean, it's neither either or.
Yes.
I do get a lot of inbound leads, but I've also put myself in the position where when I do outbound, it's a lot more effective.
You've built up a lot of social capital, so to say.
Exactly, right.
A lot of familiarity and credibility. Well,
yeah.
Shay Rowbottom on
You're
LinkedIn.
So sweet. I love you. I'm so excited.
You're awesome.
You got to come to Miami more.
I know.
Yeah.
I've been 2 hours away for years, and I've probably been in Miami like.
Is it 2 hours
3
where
times.
you are?
Yeah.
Fort Myers only 2 hours. That's wow. That's not far.
So,
I haven't been.
But people on LinkedIn gotta find and follow you. by the time they're hearing this, you'll be over 400,000, maybe 500,000,
Yeah.
and 1 million after that.
Yeah.
And the Shay Rowbottom Show.
Yep, you can find it anywhere.
Yeah.
That's my new podcast.
Yeah.
And I also launched a healing business in tandem with the podcast. So it's a subscription-based monthly coaching service where I do life coaching for anyone who, you know, is just feeling stuck, feeling like, look, I've had these goals for years. I'm not where I want to be in my business. I'm depressed, you know, addicted. I've been through it all. I've been through it all. So I do offer subscription-based coaching services, and you can go to shayrowbottom.com/healtribe to sign up and join my healing community.
Well, Shay, before I ask my final question, I mean, thank you for welcoming my awkward self into your.
You're not
into your
awkward.
Home. The first
Stop
thing
calling yourself awkward.
I tripped over the step.
Did you? Oh yeah, you did.
When I walked in, I was going to hug you, and I tripped over the step, and I was like, "Oh, great! This is how it's going to go with me today."
That's so funny.
But thank you. I mean,
yeah.
it's been a real pleasure.
Yeah.
I've loved doing this. And my final question is, you know, you've answered this question before. We'll see if it changed. I don't quite remember what you said, but if you could teach a course at a university, a course of your creation or otherwise, what would it be?
Self-love. Teaching people how to love themselves and regulate their own emotions. Because when we create a society with enough people who are able to do that, we'll stop fighting one another and we'll actually start working in a world of cooperation, not competition. And I do believe, even though it's dark right now and we're kind of going through this collective hardship, I do believe that's where we're headed toward in the world, is a more empowered, enlightened, utopian planet.
Nice.
So learn to love yourself and be happy. You know, a shaman said this to me once. He said, the best thing that you could do for the world is be genuinely happy. So be that.
Shay Rowbottom, I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jordan.